Tucked away in the Allegheny Highlands of West Virginia lies Tucker County, a place of breathtaking natural beauty and world-renowned biodiversity. Seated within this beautiful landscape are the peaceful communities of Davis and Thomas, two vibrant historical towns that blend art, nature, and Appalachian heritage into a thriving tourist economy. Local citizens and visitors alike are concerned as a looming threat casts a shadow over the horizon. A proposal to build a massive natural gas power plant that would permanently alter this pristine landscape, disrupt ecosystems, threaten air and water quality, and reshape the identity of this area built on conservation and outdoor recreation. It is a pivotal moment for Tucker County, and these are the people fighting to protect what makes it irreplaceable.
There's actually two things that are going on. We've got House Bill 2014, and we have an air quality permit that was filed by a company named Fundamental Data to build a power plant. And a power plant would be built between Davis and Thomas, right next to the landfill. The way I found out about it was a citizen contacted me and said, "Have you seen the permit application?" My answer was no.
As a resident of Tucker County, I subscribe to the local paper, the Parsons Advocate, and get it in the mail. And when it arrived, I perused through it and kind of look at generally what's in there. And as a paralegal, besides being a retired teacher, I read the legal notices to see what's going on.
When I realized what it was, I started calling other local officials. I called the mayor of Thomas. He had not heard of it. I called the president of the county commission. He had not heard about it. We called the executive director for the Development Authority. He had not heard about it. So there was no local involvement or local knowledge with regards to House Bill 2014 or the effects that it has on building microgrids, which in this case involves also building a power plant.
Well, I think when I first heard about it, it was just complete shock. Like, it seemed so out of place and like such a strange proposal for this area, and like it didn't fit at all with what we care about here. And it seemed to not take into consideration our community and what we have and what we want for this area.
It's going to run on natural gas. The backup fuel is going to be diesel. They're going to store 30 million gallons of diesel fuel in the location of the power plant. And from the permit, you can also see that they're not just going to let it sit there because it has a shelf life. 29% of the time, they're planning on burning diesel as their fuel for the power plant. So it's not all natural gas.
So the scale of this project is massive. It would be a mile from the elementary school and 2 miles within 90% of all the homes and businesses here. So a huge concern for me is just the air pollutants.
The proposed development is, in theory, 1 mile as the crow flies from where my kids go to school, from both of our large communities for Thomas and Davis. We have a large nursing facility called Cortland Acres there.
The power plant is going to be so big that it can basically power up to 100 or more data centers. And these buildings are massive, so it's just going to completely alter the landscape here forever. These buildings are known to produce noise pollution, light pollution, which impacts not only human health, but all of our wildlife around here. So I'm really concerned about that. They consume massive amounts of water. Some consume up to 1 million gallons of water a day. And I spoke with the company and they said they couldn't guarantee our aquifers wouldn't be affected. So I worry about what that means for water availability for all the towns.
We suffered from a significant drought last year, which impacted both of our communities and their drinking water significantly. And how is that going to impact things as we continue down the road?
It's just about the worst location I could possibly imagine. It's right between the two towns of Davis and Thomas, behind the landfill. And it's right on Pendleton Creek, which feeds into the Blackwater River. The power plant will have 30 million gallons of diesel stored on site, so there's huge risks if that, not even if, when that leaks into the watershed and what that's going to do to our environment here. And right now, there are very few controls or information available about how those effects or risks will be mitigated or treated. So that's a huge concern.
Concerns about outputs of formaldehyde, things that will cause respiratory and breathing problems further down the road, cancer-causing agents. Those are huge concerns.
We're at the top here. If something happens to our watershed, it will feed down through so much of the rest of West Virginia into the Cheat River and compromise all the work that's been done to restore these habitats over time.
And we've got some very dangerous gases that are emitted from these power plants. And especially when it's burning diesel, the emissions are even worse. So that caused me to change my position to say, I don't want the power plant personally built anywhere in Tucker County.
About a month ago, middle of March, I remember a bunch of friends posting on our local chat chains via Facebook and Signal. Quickly, we need to discover what's going on with this HB 2014 and how we can make our voice heard. So I didn't really know what that was about.
Yeah, it was just thrown on us a few weeks ago. We just found out that they were planning on doing the data center, and they also were sneaking in the HB 2014 bill to take away the rights of the area to decide what businesses and things come to the county.
It took me a while to kind of dive into it, but my understanding was that our new governor, Morrissey, was heavily promoting bringing data centers. He calls them microgrid. I think they've also been called high impact centers to our area.
As far as House Bill 2014, the interesting part about it is it actually excludes local government from participating in the process. It's done exclusively at the state level with the facility operator, and local government is totally excluded. You don't have an ordinance to lean on, you can't do any permits, you can't do any codes, you can't do any inspection. You can't do anything with regards to the construction of these power plants and microgrids.
It's not right. People deserve to have a say in what happens in their communities. Local elected officials deserve to have a say in regulating the types of businesses that come in. And the fact that 70% of the revenue from this project is going to go to Charleston means we won't even benefit from having something like this here.
I can see the argument, being on the town council, I see the argument about the tax revenue or whatever. But if you get informed, and you'll find out that there's not that much tax revenue from it. And the tax revenue we could get from it doesn't outweigh the tax revenue that we could lose from it with the tourists coming or not coming because of that monstrosity.
And to exclude local government, you're taking one leg of the stool out of the picture. I really look at this being important as doing a triad where you have state officials, the facility operator, and the local government representing the people that are most affected, all working together to try and find a common solution that gives you the best results.
Oh, we're in the Blackwater Falls State Park, right next to Ellicott Falls. You could probably hear it in the background. Very lush surroundings all around us. Bright green because it's in the middle of spring. It's beautiful, and lots of bugs. I do. I'm either here or Canadian Valley in the refuge. My kids know this like the back of their hand. It's their playground. We spend probably 2 to 3 days a week in the afternoons doing some kind of activity outside here.
Hey, how you doing? Taking in the sights, huh?
Yes, we did the trails, nice.
Good.
One of my favorite things about living here, and that I've noticed over time as I've spent more time here, is just the amazing community. It's been a real privilege to live here and get to know everyone and become more integrated in our community here over time. Just feel like everyone has your back and there's like always something to do, and that's what really makes this place so special. And I've talked to people like all over the world, and they're like, there's really nothing like Tucker County.
I run the children's program at Canaan Valley in the winter for the skiing. So I teach kids to ski. I've always enjoyed teaching kids. So I do that in the winter, and since I've moved out here 15 years ago, every year I've gotten 100 days of skiing. And I do a lot of mountain biking, hiking, and trail work. I enjoy getting out in the woods and cleaning up the trails for other folks to enjoy.
I spent 36 years in the Army, living all over the world and the U.S. And when I retired, I could have moved anywhere. And I chose Davis, West Virginia as my forever home because of what it provides to myself, my family, my friends, and for all the other people that live in this community. It's a pristine environment that we're so lucky to have, and if we lose it, we may never get it back. So I am very much doing everything that I can to be a proponent to protect this area and the way of life and the quality of life that we as citizens have here right now.
I guess what I would like to convey is how unique and rare Tucker County is. And I was fortunate enough that right out of college I got a job teaching at Tucker County High School. I came here never having been here before, sight unseen, and I've never left. I've gone for a while to take jobs elsewhere, but I've always come back. In fact, I worked in Alaska and I left in the summertime to come back here because this is where I wanted to be, and this is where I want to stay, and this is where I'm going to stay.
Like, while this has been one of the hardest periods of my life living here, it's also been one of the most encouraging and motivated and just confident that I've felt in choosing this place as my home.
The white water is all over the place. The hiking trails and the camping and backpacking, photography. Absolutely, this is a great place to come and photograph.
Speaking of photography, one of the main threats of this project is the light pollution that it would produce. Currently, Tucker County has such little light pollution that the Milky Way and other astronomical events are visible to the naked eye. Here is a selection of night sky photographs taken in the area that were donated by concerned photographers for use in this video.
As far as private land is what's going to be used to build the power plant. And I believe people have the right to do what they want on their own property, with exceptions. When you start doing things on your property that have extensive adverse effects on other people, then I think you lose the right to do anything that you want to do. When your air emissions are going to affect a large area adversely, when you're going to use water that people use for everyday life in their communities, when you put at risk things like an elementary school and a middle school because of close proximity to 30 million gallons of diesel fuel, that if, heaven forbid, there was an explosion of some kind, what the extent of that could be. So I think, property rights is a great thing. I'm an advocate for it, but it's conditional, and these conditions are all wrong.
Pollution, the water consumption, the air pollution, the night light pollution, and when they fire up those diesels to run the plant, that diesel fuel will come right by my house where we have, the prevailing winds would take it right through this end of Davis. And I can't imagine walking out for a bike ride and have diesel fuel fumes. It's going to be a mess.
I live on the other side of Otter Creek Wilderness, and I imagine that pending, as the air is moving, that the air quality even in that area is going to be impacted. So not only here, where on the mountaintop it will impact both towns, Blackwater Falls State Park, Canaan Valley with potential air inversions, we've got a lot of human health issues at hand that are of concern. So I feel like our politicians really need to revisit the idea of moving forward in this way and being far more considerate about A, where to put them, B, if we put them somewhere, how do we control the pollution? Can we control the pollution? If not, then perhaps there's something else that we prefer instead.
So just the thought of breathing formaldehyde and carbon monoxide and these terrible things while you're out riding your bike is really scary.
I mean, folks come here for the beauty, and to have that big data center on the way in or that close to town would, I feel like, would be a distraction from the beauty. I love, you know, the Blackwater Falls and all of our Lindy Point, and of course Dolly Sods, going up to Bear Rocks and things like that. But yeah, I feel like that would really take away from the natural beauty of the area.
I think I was really naive my whole adult life, thinking that there was fewer greedy people than there were really good-hearted and intended people, and I'm realizing more that that's just not the case, unfortunately. It's demoralizing.
I would say the phase that we're at right now is the DEP is reviewing the air quality permit application that the company submitted. And so right now is our chance to make our voices heard, and it's so important that we do. So submit a public comment to the DEP questioning all of these air pollutants, really encouraging them to reclassify this facility as a major source, because that's what it is, and the company's trying to skirt those regulations. And there's a virtual meeting in the middle of July where you can ask questions and submit your comments, and we all need to show up here together to fight this thing, and this is the point to do it right now. And we'll keep you posted on all future calls to action, but this is all hands on deck really right now to fight at this stage.
It's a critical time for us right now because this is the first permit. This is the first place where we can express our concern, and our voices will have a lot of meaning to DEP, because once the process starts moving along, I think it gets harder and harder to make a change.
Please help us amplify our message by submitting comments to the DEP today, sharing your concerns about this project. The public comment period for Fundamental Data's air quality permit application is open until July 18th, 2025. If you see this video after this date, or you would like to help in another way, consider donating to the West Virginia Highlands Conservancy fundraising page for legal support in fighting this project. Find additional information and ways to help at tuckerunited.com.